Welcome in, college basketball fans. We are here for another Tuesday show. Gather around the campfire and let me tell you the horror story of the day the Maui over died. What a sad, sad day yesterday. Terrifying even. Maui Invitational moved to Asheville, became the Camping World Invitational, and the Maui Rims did not come with. I think the overs went 1-3. Ky, how sad was it to not see the shots just bounce in easily every time there was one up on the rim?
Jim, it was very sad. It was cold outside and cold inside as well.
Oh, there it is. That's right. This is the College Basketball Show, hosted by sportsbettingreview.com. Our friends at SBR do a great job over there. Check out the website for picks, for articles, for write-ups on games. And if you're watching, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Definitely helps them and it helps us if our college basketball shows do well. So help out if you can, and obviously keep chatting up in the chat. We see a lot of movement in there already. We will go about halfway through the show. Halfway down the outline, we will stop and go through some of the games that have been brought up in there. It's gonna be a lovely show. Matt and Ky, any takeaways to start? Matt, what about you? We'll get a little insight from you first.
Jim, I know it's a sore spot for you as the Alabama booster of this organization to see Stanford just suffocate your Crimson Tide last night. But I tell you what, I've been a Cardinal devout defender all summer. This team's the real deal. Defensively, we made an offline board bet that this would be a top 10 or fringe top 10 defense in the country. They held the Crimson, a prolific offense, to 0.77 points per possession. The Cardinal, the real deal, and with UCLA struggling right now in the Pac-12, we haven't seen much from Oregon. I think the Cardinal could be the potential Pac-12 favorites. Ky, what are you looking at from last night?
I'm eating a ton of crow on Stanford. I hate it. Yeah, go ahead, Ky.
Well, I got one takeaway, guys. As you know, my best bet yesterday was UNLV plus 13. So I was ecstatic when the Rebels got out to a 13-0 lead. Moneyline, baby, it's going to be easy. And then North Carolina beat them by, and this is true, 40 points over the next 36 minutes or so. Quite the letdown. UNLV's terrible. That game was not fun to watch at the end, but hey, we get some good Maui games today at least.
Yeah, the Runnin' Rebels are in trouble. They've not shown any defense in their first two games, and they couldn't hit threes yesterday. If you can't make shots or stop anybody, you're going to lose by a lot constantly. We'll see if that continues today. We're actually not talking UNLV, though. We'll only be sticking to the winner's side of the Maui bracket. Yeah, they're the only ones that have earned it. But before we get to Maui, guys, we got to talk about the marquee games of the night. That's the Champions Classic, and we're going to start with the nightcap here. Kansas versus Kentucky. Oh boy. KU, UK, both of them have already lost a game, which feels weird to say a week into the season. Kentucky lost at home to Richmond over the weekend. Kansas lost to the juggernaut that is Gonzaga. I'm going to start with Ky here. Any leans in this game? Two blue blood powerhouses playing on a neutral site in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I thought Kansas wasn't that bad against Gonzaga. I know we talked about it a little bit. They just kind of ran into a buzzsaw. Jalen Wilson was very good, much better than we expected. I think we thought Tyon Grant-Foster would have a higher role in that team, but Wilson certainly came in and did his part. Kentucky, they are coming off a loss, but that Richmond team was very good, very experienced. Not a total shock they lost that game. Kentucky grabbed 21 offensive rebounds in that game, 48% offensive rebounding percentage. That's huge. If they didn't go over 10 from three, maybe that game turns out to be a little different. I like Kentucky's athletes D'ing up a Kansas squad that isn't quite as offensively potent as in years past. Spread was spot on opening up, but at 5 points, I'm leaning Kentucky +5 in this one.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at a total lean here, Mr. McKeon. You know, from what we saw in that Kentucky game, I think it's very clear that Calipari wants to establish Olivier Sarr, the highly touted Wake Forest transfer. Their guards were a little bit discombobulated. They didn't have great, fluid continuity on the perimeter. So I think going inside to Sarr is their best source of offense. And when they did that, the game really slowed to a halt. I think conversely, on the other end of the floor, KU will want to pound it inside with McCormick as well. So I actually see a slightly slower pace game than the implied tempo is baked into this total right now. So I'm leaning under pretty strongly in this. But it should be a fairly ugly game. Kentucky offensively, when they weren't going inside to Sarr, they're just taking terrible shots. So either you're getting a slow-paced possession that's going through Sarr inside, or you're getting a one-on-one hero ball possession with the Wildcats. So I'm going under here. Jim, thoughts?
I'm a little concerned about that under, Matt, and that's because Kansas went five smalls like quite a bit against St. Joe's. McCormick was nicked up. He is good to play today, but he basically was benched the entire second half. The only reason they ran out St. Joe's is because they went Jalen Wilson at the 5 and played 4 guards around him. And that obviously leads to a fast game, no interior defense. I know that Self talked after the game that it felt like just a matchup thing to him. So I do think McCormick plays a big role. They need him to guard Sarr. But if they're, they feel their backs against the wall, they're down 2 or even tied late, and they feel like they need a boost of energy, I can see them going with that small lineup, and suddenly there's a whole lot of scoring. So I would just be a little nervous about it. I do think, in general, and a larger point, your analysis is correct. Based on the number, I lean towards Kentucky with Ky. I think people are kind of overreacting to the Kentucky loss to Richmond. Like Ky said, it's a really good, experienced team that runs intricate, tough to defend offense for a young team with absolutely no veterans. Keon Brooks still not in there. That's worthy note for Kentucky, but no play for me there. Just a bit of a lean towards Kentucky. Let's move to the other Champions Classic game, one that is very near and dear to our resident Duke fan's heart. That is Matthew Cox. Michigan State heading on the road to Duke here, which I think is the first time Champions Classic has not been played on a neutral.
Yep.
Matt, first, defend your boys for their refusal to leave home and venture out into the great big scary world of a neutral court.
Jim, I never have defended Coach K's apprehension to leaving the friendly confines of Durham for non-con, so I have no rebuttal to that. I will stay away. I also have no defense for Duke's abysmal transition defense against Coppin State in their opener, which is precisely why I'm leading the Spartans here. They make Coppin State look like a competent ACC team with their apathetic defense, particularly out in the open court. I watched Michigan State, Notre Dame intently as a Notre Dame ticket backer. I still have some grime for that backdoor cover that the Irish slipped in there. Thank you, Mike Bray, for keeping those boys in late. But anyway, Michigan State's going to torch Duke in transition. I just don't see any way these freshmen are ready to guard all the intricate stuff that Izzo's going to run in the secondary break as well. I think the Spartans, even though Izzo has been owned by K historically, I think the Spartans get that monkey off their back in this one. Ky, where are you looking in there?
Yeah, I think I'm actually kind of against you, Matt. I lean Duke in this one. The Duke we saw against Coppin State, that's not the real Duke. I think they're still a very good team. I know Sparty dominated Notre Dame. Besides that backdoor cover that we saw, their defense was stifling. I think it's going to be a great game. I think both teams are still figuring it out. I know Michigan State looked a little more polished than Duke, but again, that wasn't the true Duke that we saw against Coppin State. That was a sleepy start to the season. This game's going to be more. They're going to be more focused in this one. And at home in Cameron Indoor, I know there's probably no fans there. I still lean Duke with this number. I think it's -3.5. No strong play for me here, but a lean towards the Devils.
I'm right in lockstep with Ky again here. I think there's some overreaction out there about Duke only beat Coppin State by 10. Last year, we saw Coppin State as one of the best non-conference underdogs in the entire country. They won at Loyola, they won at James Madison, at East Carolina, and covered like every other game. So I don't want to just immediately, knock Duke for that performance. And then Michigan State whipped up on Michigan or on Notre Dame. But there's a little recency bias there. I think coming into the season, Matt, we all believe that Duke was better than Michigan State, and now Duke's at home. I just I don't want to overreact too much to those early games, so I do lean Duke on that number. Not an official bet for me though. Matt, one last rebuttal for your Michigan State bet.
I think our prognosis of Duke preseason will come to fruition by like February. Right now, I think you're seeing the same with Kentucky, freshman-laden team. Offseason just wasn't a typical offseason, and they're going to struggle early. So I think you can pick off betting against some of these younger teams without that continuity that the older Michigan State teams type have. So I'm going with Sparty.
Should be noted that Coach K scolded his freshman guards, Jeremy Roach and DJ Stewart, for their leadership after the game. Coach K going public with his criticism. That's tough. All right, let's move on. Possibly the number one pick in the entire draft coming up next season. Number one recruit, Oklahoma State, headed on the road to Marquette. The Cowboys' second road game already. They actually, on opening day, went to UT Arlington, played a road game at a mid-major. Meanwhile, Marquette has played a couple of cupcakes at home. I believe Eastern Illinois and Arkansas Pine Bluff took care of business against both of those squads. They're now a slight favorite. I'm seeing a total of 146.5 on this one. Kyle, head over to you first. I know we're excited to watch Cade Cunningham play. Do you have any lean here on the game?
Yeah, Cade's the real deal. But the offense that I saw Oklahoma State play against UT Arlington was concerning. It was a lot of standing, very little shooting. Isaac Likely, a guy who I've gone to bat for in the past, he actually kind of kills them out there. He cannot shoot the basketball. He's a totally non-factor on the perimeter, and that really hurts their offensive flow. However, like you said, Jim, this is the first test for Marquette. They do have a big advantage inside with Theo John, in my opinion, on the glass, in the post. But this number's just gotten a little bit too high, or rather open too high. 4.5 is too many points for me to take Marquette. So I'm actually going to take Oklahoma State at 4.5. The stronger play for me is actually the over. I'll take the over 146.5 as well.
I'm with Kai. If it's at Matt, sorry, if it's at 3.5 now, Kai, where do you stand?
Yeah, I'm out 3.5.
Okay.
Came
Matt,
down. Wow.
Matt, to you.
Yeah, I'll co-sign Kai's take there with Oklahoma State. His initial lean, I should say, not his official pick. But I will take the Pokes here. Last game against Texas Southern, it seemed like they used Likely, Kai, a little bit more intelligently. We saw a little bit in the Arlington game. They used him as sort of a high post, like trigger man, because teams now know that he can't shoot, so they just they sag in, and that really constricts the floor for Cade to do what he does. So I think they're starting to figure that out. And the fact they do have one road game under their belt bodes well in this spot here. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Pokes. I just think they're the more talented team. And Marquette seems to be a little bit overvalued right now in the betting market. So I think they're a good fade team here at home. Jim?
Yeah, I liked Oklahoma State at the 4.5 or 4. 3.5 a little dicey for me, but that is still the side I would lean. I like the over a lot. I think both teams score, and I don't think either team really wants to defend that much. I think they want to get up and down a little bit. The key factor for me in last game was Rondell Walker, the freshman for Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Played 11 minutes in the opener, did absolutely nothing. Against Texas Southern, he had 19 points, hit 3 threes. Cunningham needs shooters to pass to.
Yes.
And Walker really emerged, hit some shots. Farron Flavors also an emerging threat on the outside there after transferring in. So I like Oklahoma State, and then I'm taking the over here, over 146.5. All right, let's keep on going down the line. We got one more game, and then we will take a quick chat break, so keep the comments coming. Going to USC against BYU. Believe this one, is this one coming to us from Las Vegas? Guys, help me out here on the location.
It is. Just your backyard, Jimbo. The bubble, the desert bubble.
The Vegas bubble. I'll see if I can sneak in and get a close-up eye test on these squads. I'll pretend I'm a janitor or something, get the full outfit going. But we've got two teams that I think we differ on as a group. We think one team is very well coached and the other maybe not so much. We are very big Mark Pope guys here. BYU, a very well-run team. Andy Enfield's USC, a little more concerning, especially this year without guards. Their backcourt's a little dicey with the Mobley brothers up front. Matthew, I think you might have something going here. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I was excited last night when I saw the line open up at 1, BYU -1. Just two factors. I'll keep it real simple here. Matt Harms is officially supposed to be playing a full workload in this matchup. Former Purdue transfer. And you have to neutralize Evan Mobley, USC's new 5-star toy that Andy Enfield has to work with. So I think, while not as explosive athletically as Mobley, he can definitely, that length and size will bother him. And he's mobile enough to stay in front because I'm sure they're going to play through him pretty early and often. And secondly, this is a chess versus checkers thing with Andy Enfield versus Mark Pope. And with no disrespect to Andy Enfield, I just think Mark Pope's a top 5 coach in the country. This is a team that's motivated, that's playing really well right now. And I think they're going to come out and make a statement here. Kai, are you going to ride with the Mormons as well, even though the line's up to, I think, 4 now?
Well, I'm gonna pile on to the Pope versus Enfield thing because Pope is one of the best coaches in the country, in my opinion, and Enfield is one of the worst. He just is. What he's done with the talent USC has had over the past couple of years is nothing short of embarrassing. Obviously, Matt Harms' health is huge. It's especially huge because BYU is down Gavin Baxter. Starting forward, tore his ACL a couple of games ago. USC is giant, so BYU needs to be able to compete with them in the post. If there were different coaches on the sideline, I'd be all over USC at this line. I am shocked that this has gotten up to -4. That surprises me. The public, I guess, is smart, or whoever's betting these games is smart. BYU is a better team, but I don't think BYU should be lying 4 points better than USC on a neutral. So unfortunately, I'm leaning Trojans +4.
Yeah, that's the direction I lean. I don't think I'm going to quite, plug my nose and pull the trigger on it, but it's over 3 is too rich for my blood for BYU. Even though I do like the matchup for them, I think they have better guards, and I think Harms can help shut down Evan Mobley. So I think we kind of like BYU or nothing, but the number does scream USC at this point, which begrudgingly. We're not going to feel great with the Enfield ticket in our hands. But all right, Matt, let's take a quick chat break. Hopefully you've been tracking it seems like feverish activity in there. So get us going on what games they want us to hit.
Well, I think the chat mob right now, Jim, it has sniffed out a lot of our best bets, which we'll get to at the end of the show teaser. But few requests: Luke Beasley, Gerald Miner eyeing the FIU Central Michigan game. Gerald specifically likes the over. That should be a super duper fast paced game. Luke just wants to know a take on the side. Jim, I'll kick it off to you first. Florida International, CMU. Any strong leans here?
Not much take on side, but it's both teams that want to run and are not going to hit any of the breaks. I am with the over, so I agree with them.
It's at 158 right now, down from 160. So actually a little bit of steam on the under there. Kai, any cosigns there or no strong opinions?
I'll lean FIU at the side. Jeremy Ballard, I think, is one of the best up-and-coming coaches in the country, so I'll lean FIU.
Other request, which I believe two of us have a take on, Ben C., Omaha versus Creighton. The Jays kind of struggled in their first game a little bit. They played a slower bout than we would have thought. Marcus Zagorowski really struggled to shoot the ball. They didn't look like that prolific offense that we're used to seeing. Do we think they come out here and put it all together in their second game of the year, Mr. McKeon?
Denzel Mahoney status would be my first question.
Great point. Yep.
My play in this game would be the over. I think we're going to see a Creighton team that actually scores this time. But again, Mahoney's health is a factor because he obviously helps them on offense.
Yeah, Creighton was a team that was coming out of quarantine and clearly looked sluggish offensively, not connected. Marcus Zagorowski also coming off the knee operation, so maybe he wasn't quite as sharp in his debut. But Omaha will run with them far more than North Dakota State did. North Dakota State just bogged things down in the half court. And if you get this team in the open court, the Blue Jays, they will score. And I think Omaha is going to see that, unfortunately. And I lean towards the over, not officially taking it, but then no take on the side there. I think 20 is about the right line.
Quick note here, folks, a lot of Horizon chatter on the horizon, wink, wink, in our best bets section here at the end. Yes. So for those of you asking about UIC, Valpo, Purdue, Oakland, Cleveland State, Toledo, stay tuned. Jim, back to you.
All right, we will keep on ticking down the outline then. We've got Western Kentucky headed to Louisville, joining that kind of bubbled event there in Louisville. We've already seen a whole lot of Western Kentucky. They were the runner-up at the Bad Boy Mowers Crossover Classic in South Dakota. We've seen a little bit of Louisville, knocked off Seton Hall, took care of Prairie View A&M. Matt, I'll go back to you here. We do love Western Kentucky. We thought they played well against stiffer competition, but there's some injury questions in this game. Those are the big ones to answer, correct?
Two huge ones on the Western Kentucky side. Tavion Hollingsworth, super athletic wing, very versatile. On the other side, Samuel Williamson for Louisville, a similar type player. I'd argue the latter of which is more important to his team, given just the dearth of scoring options, just the lack of depth and the accumulation of injuries that Chris Mack has had to deal with so far. Is it fair to call those two a wash, Kai? I guess if you're trying to appraise the value of each, I'd probably give the slight nod to Williamson. And since they are both officially day-to-day or questionable, although it looks like Williamson may be more likely to playing than Hollingsworth. To me, just given that uncertainty, I'm going to stay away. Are you going to take a side on this one, given the question marks?
Well, I think Hollingsworth is way more important to Western Kentucky. You saw Louisville play Carlick Jones and David Johnson together in the backcourt, and it worked very well in their last game. So I actually don't think Samuel Williamson – I mean, it's concerning because Charles Medlin is already out. I think the most concerning injury news right here is Malik Williams still being out of this game because Louisville has zero answer for Charles Bassey inside. He's going to get what he wants. And West Kentucky, like we said, they've shined so far. And they have a really, really big backcourt, Hollingsworth included. That backcourt can affect these Louisville guards, these smaller Louisville guards that haven't had quite that resistance yet through the early season. I wish this line went up. Instead, it went down to 4 because I really like Western Kentucky around 5 or 6. But at 4, I'll probably stay away. But Hilltoppers are still the way I lean in this one.
Kai, you're throwing shade at the Irish Hulk.
I know, and I love him too. I love him too.
He's going to be battling with Bassie inside there. I kind of disagree a little with your guys' prognosis on the injuries. I think Williamson might be a little more valuable simply in the terms of like VORP, the valuable over who is replacing him.
Advanced stats here. Yes, sir. Nice
yeah,
job.
just because I do think Western Kentucky has a whole bunch of guards and wings that they can, sort of fill the gap, even though Hollingsworth is their best player. Whereas Louisville, already down Midland, already down Josh Nickelberry, they're pretty depleted. I think Max said we've only got 3 perimeter guys that are even true guards that can play. So that's a little bit concerning. I have seen, I think, whispers that Williamson is probably out, which does make sense given the line movement here. And Western Kentucky, a team I think that plays much better against stiffer competition, as I mentioned. So I think they are the side, if anything, here. I don't have a total lean, but man, it's going to be a nice little game here, a rivalry in the state of Kentucky here. Okay, let's head on down to Maui, which unfortunately means Asheville, where there is snow on the ground.
Whew. What?
Yes, snow on the ground in Asheville. I saw Mark Titus and Tate Frazier not thrilled that they are, instead of in paradise in Maui, they are in snowy Asheville, North Carolina. First semifinal, Matt's Indiana, his alma mater, taking on Texas. Indiana looked lights out yesterday, just destroyed Providence. Whereas Texas kind of had to battle with a very well-executing, strong-shooting Davidson team. Matt, I'll start with you. I think we're starting to see some openers come out across the board here. What are you thinking on this Texas-Indiana game to start the day?
Well, first off, we have no official line on Indiana Tech from a side perspective. I'm seeing 2.5 pop at a couple books. Indiana favored. Chris has posted a 138 total, so kind of put that into context as we talk through the matchup leans here. Both teams, I think, want to play fairly fast. We saw it yesterday. Indiana had no problem attacking in transition. They did that really well against Tennessee Tech in the opener. In Texas, my God, I didn't realize they loved to chuck threes as much as they did. I think we saw them shoot threes at a high rate last year, but they're trying to look like the Golden State Warriors yesterday. I mean, if they're going to hit a high clip, I think they're going to be good. I'm skeptical to think that they can continue to hit at a high rate. So I think that actually plays into Indiana's hands. I think a lot of long rebounds can fuel some of that Indiana transition. I just like the way this Indiana team is, trajecting right now. Didn't see Texas guard the post very well yesterday. And if TJD, Trace Jackson Davis, can be established for Indiana inside, I think the Hoosiers are the right side here. Kai, do you agree with my Hoosier biased lean here?
Well, it's a great point about the post because Brajkovic and Menenga killed Texas inside, which was a shock to me. Texas is like OMG athletic, but this team is what we kind of expected in the preseason. For those that follow our podcast, adding Greg Brown doesn't change this team from fringe tournament to top 10. They're probably a top 20 team, but they're not an elite top 5, top 10 team in the country. Shaka Smart still has issues on the offensive end, as we saw against Davidson. I mean, even their defense wasn't great. And if IU plays offense like they did against Providence yesterday, they'll beat Texas. The ball movement that I saw from Indiana yesterday was better than I've seen from Indiana in years. It was impressive. I do think Texas has, in theory, a little bit more of an answer for TJD than Providence did. But again, Brajkovic and Menenga sort of killed them. However, if it's 3 points, if Indiana's favored by 3, this is kind of like the USC-BYU thing, not quite as extreme. I'll take Texas. Texas has the athletes to run with them to certainly win this game. So if it's +3, I'll take Texas. Anything lower, I'm probably staying away.
I think Texas is going to be kind of a bad favorite all year. That was something we saw yesterday. But as an underdog, playing a team that they feel is equal or maybe, is they're being told that team is better than them, I think they have the talent level to rise up and compete here. I kind of like Texas as a dog. Not quite to the point where I'd take it if the number got a little higher. Maybe I'd consider it. But, yeah, Kai, you mentioned the OMG athletic. Yeah. There's no team with 3 big men that have higher combined verticals than Jericho Sims, Kai Jones, and Greg Brown. I mean, all those guys they're clearing 40 inches. It is ridiculous. But, you also have to execute. You got to score. And we'll see if they're able to do that against the IU defense that did a pretty good job against Providence yesterday. Yep. All right, let's pivot to the other semifinal. This is North Carolina and Stanford, 2 teams that looked very impressive yesterday after about the first 10-ish minutes. Both of them struggled a little early or played to their competition early and then blew the doors off as the rest of the game went on. North Carolina probably wants to run, whereas Stanford's defense is just suffocating in the half court. Matt, we did allude to Stanford earlier, so I'll start with you here. Do you lean towards the underdog? The line seems a little bit short for North Carolina top 15 team, Stanford unranked.
Yeah, I mean, harkening back to what Kai said, sort of a internal conflict between just the gut lean inside and the price not being where you want it to be. I would love to take Stanford here. -3 is one of the lines I'm seeing out, though not at a very reputable book, so to speak.
Seen 4 at Chris, Matt.
4 at Chris. Okay, well, then there you go. I think I would actually be inclined to hop on if it got to 4.5 or 5. I would lean Stanford at at +4, but again, the price has to be right here. And even though Stanford is, looked like a well-oiled machine yesterday, I think North Carolina found something there in that second half, albeit against a very broken UNLV defense. I think they may be able to parlay that momentum, thus why I'm staying away as an official play. Kai, where do you stand here on this one?
Well, Stanford's defense is incredible. Matt was right in our preseason prognostication, top 10 in the country. So UNC is going to have a tougher time scoring against Stanford, obviously, than they did against UNLV, which was a turnstile. Stanford's bigger. They box out. They actually rebound. So UNC's not going to have a picnic on the glass like they usually do against teams. And then Zaire Williams, man, he is special for Stanford. To Jim's point about running, Alabama wants to run too. And Stanford was able to pretty much lock that down. I know Alabama missed some shots, but Stanford did a good job, with the pace push that Oates was trying to put on them. So I think they can hang tough with North Carolina in this one. Like Matt said, 4, 4.5, 5. I like Stanford. Anything lower, probably a stay away from me.
It did get to 83 possessions. It was a little sloppy in the second half and just a ton of missed shots for Alabama. I did see a stat this morning from a Twitter handle called Shot Quality that indicated that, if the teams had made their expected shots based on difficulty, location, previous shooting percentages, that Alabama would have won by 12 rather than lost by 18. So, you got to think about shooting variance when you're evaluating a team. I want to overreact because I'm so mad at my Crimson Tide for being terrible, but maybe Stanford wasn't quite as good as we saw. Alabama not quite as bad as we saw. I could see this being a little bit of an overreaction game where people are too excited about Stanford after Zaire Williams made some tough shots yesterday and Alabama missed some easy ones. But, we'll see. I think North Carolina can get their points in the paint, but I don't have a lean side or total here, unfortunately.
One note here, Jim, real quick. Yep. You have a little bit of a mentor versus mentee with Jared Haas and Roy Williams. Haas, a longtime assistant at North Carolina before eventually making his way to Palo Alto. So if you play for him as well. So if you buy into that familiarity, if you think Haas may have some, inside nuggets on Roy's tendencies, then that might add an additional feather in the cap of Stanford. But Jim, back to you.
Roy taught him everything he knows, but he didn't teach him everything that Roy knows. That's
you
don't give it everything.
Information, knowing that there'd be a 2020 Maui matchup. Very savvy.
All right, let's get into our picks here, guys. We've been a little bit on the fence with a lot of these big games, but I know we have some big-time Horizon leans here. I will start. Jim's pick coming at you. I actually have 2, both from the Horizon, both dogs. I'm going with the home dog UIC Flames. They've been good to me the first 2 games, played 2 very close games, have been without their point guard, Maurice Commander, whose father sadly passed away right before the season. Kind of hoping he is back here to handle the ball, but I'm surprised to see them an underdog to Valparaiso here. I think Luke Yaklich has done a great job there. And then my other bet is Oakland. On the road against Purdue, they were a disaster in the first 3 games at Xavier, but they really challenged Michigan, took them to overtime. Rashad Williams looked a little bit better, their best player. So I'm riding with both underdogs in that one. Let's keep it in the Horizon, Matt, because I know you are looking at that league as well.
Cleveland State against Toledo. I'm trying to find the updated line right now on sportsbrokerview.com/betting odds, SBR odds.com. Make sure I get my plugs right there. I just think that the Vikings, they were very stingy last year when they kind of got their footing under them, under first-year coach Dennis Gates. And they're a tricky team to play for if you're not familiar with them. They play a little bit of a zone. They'll come at you with some full-court pressure. Dennis Gates, a former Leonard Hamilton disciple, so he has some of that kind of 2-2-1 pressing type scheme. It's a team that you're not going to want to match up against if you're unfamiliar with it, if you don't have a chance to scout it. And this is Cleveland State's first game of the year. Toledo has played 3 games, so you could argue that they've gotten into a rhythm where Cleveland State hasn't. I think this game gets really ugly, and so if you're catching 9, it feels like a mountain to me. So I will go with the Vikings in this one.
2 things, Matt, I'm going to add to you. Potentially Toledo missing their big shot blocker, A.J. Edu.
Yes,
and remember the
huge.
name Demoy Hodge for Cleveland State, a monster JUCO transfer.
JUCO kid, yeah.
He should have been power conference guy, but he's going to be fantastic. All right, Kai, let's go to you, which I think we have a fourth Horizon underdog here. Horizon Dogs today, boys. Horizon Dogs today. What do you got for us, Kai?
Yeah, you're not going to believe this, guys. We're sweeping the Horizon, basically. I got Green Bay plus 25. The Phoenix heading to in-state rival. That's right, rival, Jim. Madison, Wisconsin. I'm hoping, this is basically the hinge for this bet, I'm hoping the Green Bay pace we saw against Minnesota in the first game, played 89 possessions. I'm hoping that's not indicative of Will Ryan's overall plan. Obviously, Link Darner, Green Bay's coach last year, was all about the RP40 system, top 5 pace in the country, up and down, up and down. Will Ryan's supposed to pull it back a little bit. By the way, Will Ryan, son of Bo Ryan, former all-time great head coach at Wisconsin. We know Wisconsin, the Badgers won't be looking to push tempo, so I'm hoping the possessions stay relatively low in this one. This game is absolutely going to be 15-20, maybe 23 points, so it's not going to be an easy cover. I'm just hoping my Phoenix can hold on a little bit in this one and bring me a cover.
Kai, you have some chat mob resistance against you here.
Oh, yeah?
Tim Thielman likes Wisconsin first half minus 15 or so, he is implying. Jim, are you going to ride with your buzz cuts against Kai here, or are you going to trust your
15?
Colleagues?
First half.
First half. First half. Yeah.
Wow, high first half line, but he's probably right.
Hey there, just that Wisconsin guy's coming in here. That's the son of that Will Ryan coming in here.
There you go.
He's a legend at Wisconsin. Let's see what he's got. No, I kind of ride with Kai here. I think this will hopefully be a slower game. I also kind of like the under. I don't think that Wisconsin runs with Green Bay the same way that Minnesota did. So I'm with Kai. We are sweep across the board, Horizon underdogs. Matt, did we miss any games that the chat is clamoring for?
Just a lot of Oakland love in the chat. Do we want to give our stamp of approval for that officially, or do we want to?
It was one of my best bets if you were paying attention, Matt.
I usually don't. So I think the listeners and followers are well informed. Chat mob, thank you for your activity today. We love you. We'll be back tomorrow. Jim, sign us off here.
Yeah, check out the YouTube page for SBR. There's plenty of other picks, soccer and NFL and college football. It's all up there. Check that out. Check out the website and like and subscribe to the video. Hit like. We're just finishing up. Hit that like. We love that. And we will see you tomorrow morning.